David and Mimi, 65 years is a long time. Where were you married? In a synagogue or a hall?
Navisky.
Temple Emeth in Brookline. Was that building there back then that they built? That must have been the most contemporary building, right?
That's what about Shalom is too big for we.
By Shalom was too big for you, so in Brookline. So it was Temple Emeth. Well, beautiful. So everyone, this evening we are here to honor, if you didn't know it, the president of our congregation, Neil Silverston, who thankfully, and I must admit, I no longer take this for granted, but it's worthy of celebration. Neil has agreed to abide by the rules of our temple's constitution and allow for a peaceful transition of power by only serving two-year terms, just as the bylaws state.
And
I thank Neil for that gift, even as we recognize that his love for our community and his desire to serve it is far from done, and we are grateful for that as well. And so before I invite Neil to address the congregation, as we have always done with presidents who serve us so well and for so long, I do want to share a few brief words of Torah. Neil has taught me so often in his presidency to look ahead. And that's what I thought I'd do tonight, because I'm going to look ahead at the portion we read tomorrow night, which is actually next week's portion. And I wanted to address next week's portion because it has a beautiful lesson about leadership in Parshat Naso. And it comes from the story of Aaron's sons, Nadav and Avihu, who, according to the text, offer some sort of alien sacrifice, according to the Torah, and as a result are immediately zapped, killed in what seems to be a terrible punishment. And so the rabbis ask, why would Nadav and Avihu, who are leaders of the people, what have they done to merit this punishment? And one rabbinic thought states that actually it was not a punishment at all. Rather, it was a consequence of Nadav and Avihu's spiritual behavior, which is a really interesting read. They say that Nadav and Avihu actually did nothing wrong. This was not a punishment from God. Instead, they offered a sacrifice, something that our ancestors often would do in the Bible. But when they offered it, they did it with such passion and fervor that they lost themselves in such religious emotion. They lost themselves in the reverie, so much so that they no longer saw the people in front of them, which led to a spiritual death. According to the Torah portion, basically it reminds us when we serve in a religious community and serve God, we can't lose ourselves. We can't forget about the people and the relationships around us. Even when you're so passionate about an issue and feel like you know what's right for the community, you need to slow down and listen and build consensus and see the humanity right in front of you. That's Jewish leadership. And Neil, that's what you would do throughout your term as our president over and over again. During these last 4 years, you always saw the people, and not only saw them, but reached out to them with patience and diligence and caring and love. And you took over the presidency at a very traumatic moment in the life of our congregation and our people. Now, the trigger warning, I think I put a picture up here. Yeah. That's what it looked like up here when Neil began his presidency. We were in plexiglass boxes. Joe, do you remember those days? Ouch. Let's take it down. I don't want to remember that. But it's pretty incredible what we survived. And with calm and a deep sense of partnership, we not only survived as a community, but we grew stronger with our values leading us every step of the way. And it turns out in that crazy space we celebrated bar mitzvahs and funerals. We maintained an early childhood program throughout the year. And we as a community grew on Zoom, seeing each other, continuing to welcome new people into our lives and on our screens when it was very easy to push people away. And I must admit, there were times back then when Neil started his presidency, I thought I would never shake a hand in the sanctuary again. There were times I never imagined hugging a bar mitzvah student on the bima, or a wedding couple, or more importantly, someone that was mourning the loss of a dear family member. And yet here we are in a sanctuary filled with love and a lot of handshakes and a lot of hugs and a lot of greetings. And we couldn't have done it without Neil's leadership and the leaders of so many people who helped lead our congregation. And so from all of us, we just want to say to Neil, thank you. And so I would like to call upon Danny Navisky, our president-elect. I think you're still president-elect, even though we voted at the meeting, correct? Until July 1. Danny.
Neil, you can come up. Where are you? I have a gift for you. So I'll say Neil's last act, official act as president, was overseeing our congregational meeting. And his gift to us and his extraordinary leadership meant that we finished our meeting 7 minutes early, which is an amazing feat. And I will say that my first pre-act was making sure that someone saw Danny Silverson walk into the room to lift our prayer tonight in your honor. So it's really a pleasure, Neil. Neil has been our president for 4 years, but in truth, he's been serving the community for much longer. His journey started as our VP of Tikkun Olam, transforming the way we do Tikkun Olam here with such an amazing volunteer-based system. Many of you are here in the room. Neil went on to chair our Cantor Search Committee, and we wouldn't have made it through that amazing transition and have Shana with us if it weren't for Neil's leadership. And Rabbi Sissenwein talked about COVID and securing our assets and all the other amazing things that Neil has done. So, Neil, we have a gift for you, which I would like you to open. Be careful, there's 2 pieces to it.
It looks like the Bar Mitzvah Kiddush cup.
It's not the Bar Mitzvah Kiddush cup. I want to thank Dana Sobel, who works at, is the art curator at Kolbo, helped us to select the gift. So you'll see, Neil, maybe you can hold up the gift. It is this beautiful handmade tzedakah box. Neil's legacy is tied to the inscription on the tzedakah box, which says, Tzedek, Tzedek Tirdof, justice, justice shall you pursue. And nothing embodies Neil more than his commitment to justice. And the rabbis wrestle with the question of why does it say tzedek, tzedek, 2 tzedeks in a row? Every word is important. So Reish Lakish tells us that it reminds us to be deliberate and careful in judgment, to revisit and review over and over before making decisions. Maimonides tells us consult with others to get as many views as possible. And other of our sages talk about compromise, making sure that many voices are heard and that we find the middle path forward. So anyone who's worked with Neil knows that he loves to be relational. He loves to talk to people. He loves to get lots of ideas. And it's something that I really value in Neil, and I share that view. Although Neil, as you'll hear, has an inside voice when he talks to people. And I, shall we say, have an outside voice. So, Neil, my blessing for you, my thought for you as you move forward and step away from temple leadership in a formal capacity, even as you are part of Sea Change, a racial justice community organizing initiative, is that you keep pursuing justice and that you fill this beautiful tzedakah box with many proverbial and real justice coins, justice acts that help fill your heart and enrich our community. And we are extraordinarily grateful for your service over these many years.
And so, Neil, will you share words with us this evening?
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. You didn't say I had to speak after Danny. Thank you, Danny. Actually, Nadav and Avihu, that Torah portion was Isabel's portion for her bar mitzvah, so I'm going to need to rethink that a bit. Thank you. I'm feeling a lot of gratitude in this moment. As you might imagine, over the past several weeks, I've done quite a bit of reflecting, or rather, I've tried to reflect. In truth, though, it's really hard for me to wrap my head around these past 4 years. We've been through a few things together. And I've learned a few things. We are, after all, a learning community. I've learned about resilience. In our world's and our people's most difficult moments, this community brings our best. In our most challenging personal moments, we show up for each other. And I've spoken before about our amazing staff and clergy, so I'm going to share one more time. It's been a privilege to walk into this building on any given day and see how hard they work and see how much they care. I've learned that sometimes it's better to make space than to fill up space. I've had a front row seat watching leaders create new experiences, solve really big problems, build coalitions to make our world a better place. And I'm not talking just about board members or committee chairs, but any one of us who takes a risk to step forward in some way to be present in the sacred work of building this community. I've learned that TBE is a better place when we strive for what Martin Buber calls I-thou relationships. In Buber's book, I and Thou, he describes two different ways we can relate to the people and world around us. What Buber calls I-it relationships are transactional. We interact with people based on what resources they can provide for us. In I-thou relationships, we're able to see others as unique, whole individuals and connect to them on a deeper level. And when we make these genuine connections, we help create a sense of community and belonging. We create TBE. And I've learned how warm and open people at TBE can be if we're willing to be a bit open and vulnerable ourselves. For me, the best thing about being TBE president is that often sometimes people I don't know that well or at all, want to talk with me. It's the coolest thing. I've had the opportunity to meet, and I mean really get to know, the most extraordinary people. Of course, I don't want to name any names. You all know who you are. Thank you all. Thank you for enabling me to bring my best self into this community and for allowing me to sometimes not bring my best self. I'm incredibly grateful for the opportunity to serve in this way. It's been the greatest honor of my life. Thank you.
Neil, we'd love you to join us on the bima. Soon we'll turn to the words of Aleinu in our prayer book, words calling us forth to justice. Before we do, we'd like to ask for God's blessing upon you in the presence of our community. And so for the blessing and for Aleinu, if you're able, we ask you to please rise. Eloheinu v'Elohe Avotenu v'Imotenu, O God, God of our ancestors, bless Neil Silverstein, who has now completed 4 years as president of Temple Beth Elohim in Wellesley, Massachusetts. O God, we are grateful for Neil's wisdom and patience, compassion, and dedication to the many members of our community, whether it be under the tents on the high holy days or over a cup of coffee at Starbucks or in the atrium. Oh God, grant Neil health and strength and many, many years, and the knowledge to know that he made a huge difference in the life of our community, deepening its roots in our tradition and strengthening the many relationships and programs that define this holy place. May you always know our gratitude and appreciation as we continue to build this Beit Elohim. And let us all say,
Amen.
I'll say, we'll put a hand on Neil. Yivarecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. May God bless you and protect you.
Ken yehi ratzon.
Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'yifneka. May God shine down upon you and be gracious to you.
Ken yehi ratzon.
Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. And may you always feel the support of God's presence, and may God grant you a life of wholeness, of shalom.
Ken yehi ratzon.
Let's join in the words of Ali.